and has the network The Blaze. Please join me in welcoming our friend Glenn Beck.
Yeah!
I've solved the issue of global warming. It's not our SUVs, it's that big flaming thing in the sky. I come to you today with a different message. I've stood here and I've listened, but there's a different message that I wish to deliver to you today. We live in confusing times. We live in a world that is suffering under the delusion of peace and prosperity. We are being told that the world is safer. We're being told that the world economy is stable and that Islamic killers are men of peace. The confusion comes from the abandonment of truth, a truth that has been chased out of our public squares, out of our public buildings, out of the media, our university, and quite frankly, many of our churches as well. But God's timing is divine. If we fail to restore truth, God will do it for us. So today, let's speak truth, God's truth, to the powers of the earth. I don't believe in coincidence. I told you when Benjamin Netanyahu came to Congress and spoke over a year ago, nobody really heard and saw the timing of his speech. When he spoke last year, the Torah portion that was studied that week in synagogues all over the world was the story of Esther. It was God's message to Esther. It was Benjamin Netanyahu's message to America. America has a special role, just like the role of Esther. And we can recognize it and save lives, or we can deny it and lose our role and lose our lives. But once again, God's timing is perfect. In this week's Torah portion, we are told of the story of the early Israelites, where Moses stood on the edge of the promised land and commanded God's people, choose life or death, light or darkness, or they would be swept from their promised land. Today, we are faced with the exact same choice. Choose life and light over darkness and death. But I have a renewed hope because something is happening in America. Something is happening all around the world. Wake up! I believe we are no longer fooled by those who have made good evil and evil good. With Planned Parenthood and the slaughter of our police officers in the streets, while we get into bed with bad guys and run guns in Benghazi to people who now rape children and sell them into slavery, we realize now that we have been silent for far too long. We have been dulled into a senseless slumber. But there are millions of people that are waking right now all around the world. They're shaking themselves. They're shaking their families awake. They are turning back to eternal principles because there is a hunger for truth, unvarnished truth, authentic truth, eternal truth. We even have come now, thank God, to a point where we will accept that we may not like the truth, and we know that it will not make us comfortable, but we can deny it no longer. Today, we return to eternal principles, to stand with God and His chosen people. And make no mistake, that is exactly what this treaty is really all about. This time, darkness and evil comes differently. This time, evil has started to quench its thirst for blood with the extermination of the Christians. Just a few years ago in Syria, there were over 2 million Christians in Syria. There are now only 400,000 left. A genocide is already underway.
Shame on Obama.
But make no mistakes, it will kill the Muslims that aren't Muslim enough, the homosexual who just wants to live his life, the women and children, and evil will get around to the Jew because it always does. After World War II, the world made a promise. After we saw the slaughter of innocents in World War II, we said, never again.
Never again.
I testify to you today that never again is now. Two weeks ago, 30,000 people came to the same streets that gave birth to a movement that ended segregation. Many of you were there. We marched on the same streets that Martin Luther King marched. The city of Birmingham said it was the largest civil rights march in Birmingham since 1963. It was a unity march. It was people that had different backgrounds and different religions all coming together to take a stand. To stand for the victims that were being slaughtered by terrorists that are supported by Iran. To rescue those Christians who have been marked with the mark of the Nazarene for death. Our Statue of Liberty cries out to those people. The tired, the poor, the huddled masses yearning to be free. The tempest-tossed. But our government will not take them. We will transplant entire Somali Muslim communities to Minneapolis, but we have closed our door and our hearts and stand silently by for the Christians who are crucified. Or even worse, we empower or fund Iran's goal of vaporizing Israel. In time, in mere minutes, Iran will be able to accomplish more than Hitler did in over a decade. Meanwhile, our own government, our representatives are giving us a false choice, a choice of treaty or war. This, make no mistake, was exactly what was said before World War II. The sane, the rational, were so desperate to avoid war that they sent the Prime Minister of England, Neville Chamberlain, to meet with Adolf Hitler. And evil wore its mask. It played the game and spoke the soothing words that evil always speaks when people are eager for peace. This